right, which is money and banking. Which chapter are we discussing about now? We are discussing about chapter 3, money and banking. In the previous class, in the previous video session, we have discussed what is money. Okay, we have discussed what is money. Money is the medium of exchange. Okay, money is the medium of exchange, accepted medium of exchange. Then we have discussed about the definition of money, which said that it is generally acceptable as a medium of exchange and at the same time it acts as a measure and store of value. Alright, and of standard of deferred payment. Deferred payment means delayed payments. Hereafter only you are going to receive that payment. That is called as standard of deferred payment. In what terms it is calculated? It is calculated in terms of money. Then we discussed about various functions of money like primary functions, secondary functions and contingent functions. Primary functions, what are the basic primary functions of money? It is that it is a medium, it serves as a medium of exchange and then it helps you in the unit of value, measure of value. That is one pencil or one pen is how much does it cost. With the basis of money only we are able to measure it. Then the secondary functions are store of value or transfer of value. Okay, store of value means what? How much assets you have. When you transfer it, how do you transfer it? In terms of money. And then standard of deferred payment. That is in delayed payments. How will you calculate? You will be calculating it in terms of money. Those are the functions of money. Primary and secondary functions of money. Talking about the contingent functions of money, we discussed about basis of credit. That is, it tells you about the basis of credit, on what basis it is given, how much credit can be given, all those things. And then liquidity. Liquidity means what? Liquid flow of the assets you have. It is changed into cash and then only you will be using it. Then these are the various contingent functions, but we discussed in detail about the primary and secondary functions of money. Alright, after that we have discussed about barter system in detail. We explained what is barter system, then we explained about the demerge of barter system. Why was money made a medium of exchange? It was not that from the beginning money was existing. It is that in the meantime only money came into existence. And why did it come into existence is the point that we discussed. Because of the demerge that we faced with the barter system only, we were forced into finding out about money and involving it as a medium of exchange. So what are the various demerits of barter system? You had a difficulty of double coincidence. When you have double coincidence, that is when two people want the same product and you have only one quantity, to whom will you give it? With whom will you change it? Barter system means exchange of goods and services without any other medium of transaction, medium of money, medium of exchange. Alright, so in that case, when two people are asking the same product that you have, how will you exchange it with and with whom will you exchange it? Because both of them are asking. That's a problem. And then it is eradicated in case of money. How? You can sell it, you can get the money and then you can buy whatever you need. Second thing is that lack of common unit of value. It is not that what product I have, the value of that product will be that of the same product with the others. Okay, the value of everything differs. Right, when you even talk about vegetables, when you check the rate of the vegetables, one vegetable differs with the rate of other. It's not that all the vegetables are 20 rupees per kg. Is that so? No, it differs. So the unit of value also, there is no common unit of value in barter system, whereas here what do? You just simply sell it for money and earn it. And then you again give it. You just give it for, give the money and buy whatever things you need. Okay, then lack of system of future payments. There was nothing called future payments. Here you have posted a check, you tell that I will pay at the future date, interest also can be paid in the future date. But whereas when you talk about this particular barter system, there is no promise of future payment. How will you go for future payment? Right, then and there the exchange should happen. That is what is barter system. And then lack of transfer transfer of value, lack of system for storage. There is no possibility of storage. When you have the perishable goods, you can't store it. But when you sell the products and you have 10 lakh rupees, you can easily store it in bags. Okay, but when you have goods worth of 10 lakh rupees, it's very difficult for you to store it. Clear? And then there is no transfer of value at all. How will you transfer it? There is no common medium of exchange. That is why, because of all these reasons only, what came into existence? The medium, the common medium of exchange, which is called as money, came into existence. Clear, children? This is what we have discussed, and then we have discussed about the demand for money and supply of money. How is it made? What are the various points about supply of money? First, we'll talk about demand for money. What makes people desire a certain amount of money is called as a demand for money. How much ever transactions you want to make, that much is the demand for money. Larger the quantum of transactions to be made, larger the demand for money. Right? How much ever I want to do, how much ever I want to buy. Today I am going to a shop to buy 20 notebooks, means that rate I should have. That is my demand for money for that particular day. Likewise only for the entire country. The savings also differs. The less interest rates. Based on the interest only you will be interested in saving. So you know that when you deposit in a bank, even in supply of money we discussed with commercial bank. What is that? The rate of interest that they charge from you is higher than the rate of interest they pay you for your deposits. Correct. In such a case, you will not be very interested to deposit your money. In that case, the flow of money will be difficult. And how do you decide the supply of money? It is basically about the stock concept, how much people hold at that point of time. It is not about how much is in circulation. It is how much people hold. There are various measures of money, children. Actually, this is a detailed concept given in your, in the annexes in box number 3.1. They have given you the measures of money. Right, that only we are going to discuss. In supply of money, there are some measures given. I hope you will be able to read it by yourself, but still I want to give some important points related to those things. That's what we are going to discuss today. In supply of money, we spoke about two things. The central bank and the commercial banks. Central bank, for every country there will be a head of the banks which is called as a central bank. And for our country, India, Reserve Bank of India is considered to be the central bank, and it came into existence in 1935. Clear? What are the various features or functions of a central bank? Let it be any country central bank. What are the functions? It is called to be the banker's bank. It is the head of all the bank, the bank of government. And one important thing is that it is a custodian of foreign exchange reserves. When other countries' firms or other countries' banks are investing somewhere in our banks, in our country's banks, then those reserves, they will be calculated along with the reserves kept in the central bank. Okay, that will be maintained by the central bank of any country. That is why we say that they are the custodians of foreign exchange reserves, and they are also called as the lenders of last resort. How are they called? They are called as the lenders of last resort. Why do we call the central bank as the lenders of last resort? Okay. Central bank is called the lenders of last resort. Okay, last resort means your last deal is that. That is when the banks, they don't have enough money to circulate or to move on with their own transactions. They will borrow or will get help from the central bank. That is why it is called as lender of last resort. Why? It helps the banks. In case of non-existence of money, in case of commercial banks and other banks which are in the country, who do they get help from? They get help from from the central bank of the country. That is why it is called as the lender of last resort. Alright children, one more important characteristic is that they control credit, controller of credit. In your deleted portions you would have seen some terms like SLR, CRR, repo rate, purchase repo rate, okay, repurchase repo rate, and all those are in deleted portions as of now. But those are terms that are related with controller of credit. Who is the controller of credit? The central bank of any country is called the controller of credit. Alright children, fine. Now we are going to discuss about commercial banks. What did we discuss about commercial banks? They accept deposits from public and a part of that particular money is given as loans. Okay, that is lent to other people who are in need. Let it be individuals or let it be firms. Whoever needs that money, they will be borrowing it from the commercial bank. And from where will the commercial bank give this money? From the deposits that individuals have done with them. Okay, now the interest rate that they pay to their depositors is lesser than the interest rate they collect from the people who have borrowed from them, from the borrowers. So the difference is there, no, in this interest rate. It is called as spread. What is it called? It is called as spread, and it serves to be the profit of the bank. Okay, for any firm there is a bank for a profit, right? Same way, this spread, no, this interest rate difference is called as spread, and it serves to be the profit of the commercial banks. Now what are we going to discuss? We are going to discuss the various measures of money in supply. In your supply measures they have given, we will discuss the measures of money. So we are going to say it in terms of M1, M2, M3, M4. We are going to have 4 measures of money. Alright, first we have M1. This is the addition of cash plus demand deposits. Demand deposits are also called as bank deposits. That is cash in your hand plus the amount that you have in your account in a bank. That is when you go and demand for it, they give it. That is why it is called as demand deposit. So M1, measure of money 1 is called as cash plus demand deposits. Here M1 is called as a supply of money. How do you calculate it? By the cash, by adding cash plus demand deposits. Okay, this cash is there. No, this is like currency plus coins both together. 100 rupees note, 200 rupees note also is called as cash, and 5 rupees coin, 10 rupees coin is also called as cash. Currencies and coins are called as cash. That should provide the public, with the people it should be. Okay, some economists, they add one more column called other deposits. What are these other deposits? These are of foreign bank, deposits of foreign bank. What you have done in foreign bank or what they have done here. How in GDP you calculated with that. Okay, people who live in other country, who belong to India, when they earn something, it is added in GDP. People who belong to other country, live in India and earn, that is not added in the GDP. That should not be added in the GNP is what we have studied. Alright, what is M2? What is the next thing that you can do is, this is the base. M1 is a base. Okay? M1 plus, what is the next one? Deposits of public with post office as savings account. Okay, what is M2? M1, this is the base thing. Okay, this supply of money plus deposits. That is what? Post office savings account. The deposits made by public in post office savings account. Here also will be added. Here demand deposits means only banks. Here what you are adding? You are going to add from the post office also. Whatever you are going to get from the post office also, that you are going to add here. Alright, what are we going to do next in M3? is net time deposits of commercial banks. Plus net time deposits from commercial banks. So in M1 itself we already have added demand deposits. What is this net time deposits? They are held by commercial banks. They are kept in commercial banks. Okay. And here we are going to have M4 also. What is going to be M4? M3 plus total deposits with post office savings organization. Other organizations which are related with post office also are going to be added here. What is that? M4 is equal to M3 plus total deposits in post office and other saving institutions. Whatever deposits you have. I'll tell you, there is a difference between this. It may look same. Here also bank deposits, here also net time deposits from commercial banks, here also deposits from post office, here also you are talking about total deposit. Same only, no ma'am? Yes, it looks same, but there is a different concept. Let me explain that to you. These two are there, no? M1 and M2. They are called as narrow money, or the narrow concept we call it. M3 and M4 are called as broader concept or broad money. How? Oh, why? Is what is given in detail in that box for you. M1 and M2 are narrow money, whereas M3 and M4 are called as broad money. Okay, these measures are in decreasing order of liquidity. M1 is most liquid and easiest for transactions, whereas M4 is least liquid of all. Okay, and M3 is the most commonly used measure of money supply. Which one? M3 is the most commonly used method. Okay, this is the most commonly used method, and what is it called as aggregate monetary resources. What is that? M1, that is cash plus demand deposits plus deposits from commercial banks. Other time, at present you are talking about demand deposits. Earlier also some other deposits will be there, no? That also will be called as net time deposit. Fixed deposit and all you have. Okay. So M1 is called to be the most liquid form because it provides in your hands. Easily you can use the cash that is in your hand. Demand deposit, you just can go to the bank and withdraw your amount. So that is considered to be the most liquid form, whereas M4 is considered to be the least liquid of all because it's not easy to use it. It is the addition of everything. Okay, where M3 also is added here. This one plus total deposits, other deposits, post office deposits and everything. So it's very difficult to materialize this. This is very liquid, but whereas most of us are using this kind of supply of money, that is cash plus demand deposits plus net time deposits from commercial banks. Okay children, so this is what is the various measures of supply of money. These are the various concepts that are given in supply of money. What is that we are going to discuss today is money creation by banking system. In the previous example, we saw like how that particular, that one person, one Goldsmith, one Goldsmith Lala was there, how he was getting deposits from people, okay, and how he was giving loans to others. He got 100 kgs of gold, okay, from people, and then out of that 25 kgs he gave to someone else as he lended, okay, he lended. So he had 75 kgs of gold and the 25 kgs of gold was there, which was borrowed. That was also made as a deposit, okay, separate thing was made as deposit. He used to give a written instrument that was, that was transaction with one another. All those things we studied, right? Same thing only happens with the banking system also. How it happens? It can lend simply because they do not expect immediate, immediate withdrawals. People go and deposit money with them. Okay, and part of that is lent as loans. What can they do? They can lend it. Right? Usually also they can lend, but here what is the case is that everybody may not ask this money in the same time. I have deposited 1,000 rupees. My friend has deposited 1,000 rupees. My father has deposited 1,000 rupees. For an example, only 3 people have deposited in the bank. 3,000 rupees we have deposited. Out of this 3,000, the bank is thinking like 1,000 rupees, let's give a loan. Another person comes and takes 1,000 rupees loan. Will the bank be ready to give all 3,000? No, because one of us may not ask. It's not that all 3 of us will ask. Right, that criteria, based on that criteria only banks lend part of their money. They don't entirely give that money. Okay, they don't entirely give out their deposits as loans, but they will maintain some balance with them. And remaining only they used to give. Okay, so what it is, they do not expect all the depositors to withdraw money immediately. That is how they earn, that is how they lend it. Through that they get the interest rate. Through the interest rate, through the difference only what they can see, they get the profit which is called as spread. Okay children. Okay, money creation by banking system. What is the first point we have decided, we have discussed children? That is, banks lend money to borrowers. From what they lend? From the money that we have deposited with them. Alright, from the money we have deposited with them. In what basis they are doing it? That's all the people won't expect withdrawals immediately or at the same time. Alright, this is one of the important things, because if everybody asks, then bank will not be able to repay. Okay, that is the reason they'll be very careful that the entire deposits that they have is not lent out. They will keep part of it. So in case they have someone already like who is going to come and ask money, they will be taking from the money given. For example, in the example that I said, I have deposited 1,000 rupees. Okay, my friend has deposited 1,000 rupees. My dad has deposited 1,000 rupees. Okay, we three have deposited totally 3,000 rupees. Alright, out of this, they have lent 1,000 rupees to the fourth person. Now what I want? I am coming for a withdrawal and I want this 1,000 rupees. They have lent some 1,000. Remaining how much is there? 2,000 rupees is there. Out of the 2,000 they can give me 1,000, right? I am not going to ask the same 1,000 that I have deposited. I want 1,000 rupees. That's it. Alright, this is how they do. Now how will they create it? How will they create money means this 1,000 rupees is there. No. They will make this as a deposit. They will open a separate account for this and they will be having it as a deposit. So now instead of this 1,000, instead of minus, they will have another deposit which will become 4,000. So this is how they create money. This is how they will help in the supply of money. Okay? What they will be doing? They will be creating the loan borrowers also as depositors. They will be converting the borrowers also as depositors. When the banks lend to any person, a new deposit is opened in that person's name. As money supply increases to old deposits plus new deposits. So this 3,000 plus 1,000 becomes 4,000, whereas the supply of money has increased. The money creation is done. Now what we are going to discuss, I hope you remember accounting terms and accounting equations. We are going to talk about assets, liabilities and reserves. Okay, assets means what? Things that I am eligible to get. My capital, my machinery, all those are called as assets. Liabilities means if I owe money to someone, then that is called as liability. Clear? Now, in the same thing, for banks also we will have balance sheet and all those stuff. In accounts you will be doing for firms, right? Same way for banks also, we will be having assets. There we have capital, we have machinery, we have building as assets. What do we have as assets in banks? In assets, we have reserves and loans. So assets is equal to reserves plus loans. Reserves means what they already have. Loans means at the future date they are going to get. That becomes an assets for a particular company. Loans means what? To whom they have lended. Okay, to whom they have lended, that will become an asset. For a company, what becomes, for a firm, what becomes a liability? The amount that they have to repay as profit, or the amount that they have to repay as bank loans interest. Those things will become liabilities. In case of banks, what would be their liability? Their liability to whom they have to pay children, they have to pay to their depositors. What they have to pay? They have to pay the deposit amount back. That will be their liability. So what will be the assets of a bank? Unlike a business organization, the assets of a bank will be the reserves that they have and the loans that they have lent to other people. Whereas the liabilities will be the deposits that other people, public, have made with them. Okay, so how do you calculate the net worth of the bank? Net worth is equal to assets minus liabilities. Okay, what do they do here? They have given you an example just with 100 rupees. Okay, they have RBI reserves of 100 rupees. They have said. So how do you calculate 100 rupees of assets, and they owe deposits also of 100 rupees. So the net worth is 0. That is what is the calculation given. That is how they have calculated M1 is equal to currency plus deposits. We saw in the measure now, currency plus deposits. That is what happened. Currency, do they have anything? No, net worth is 0. Deposits they said 100. So the answer is 100. Okay, what do they get as M1? Alright? Fine. Balance sheet, they have given you a fictional bank's balance sheet, that only they have worked out like this. And then the next topic, limits to credit creation and money multiply. Let's just quickly go through what are the terms, because I don't want you to skip it entirely. So I'll just quickly say what it is. We are going to talk about required reserve ratio and reserve ratio or cash reserve ratio. All three points are the same. What are the three? Required reserve ratio or cash reserve ratio. What is it? It is a legal requirement and it is a binding on the banks. What does it say? It avoids over lending. That is, a bank should maintain this much of reserves in it out of the deposits. I get 100 rupees of deposits, means I cannot lend the 100 rupees. The central bank will tell, controller of credit, the central bank will tell that only 75 rupees, at least 75 rupees you have to maintain as a reserve. So remaining 25 rupees only can be given as loans. Okay, that is called as a required reserve ratio. ratio, how much deposits. Here only 100 rupees we have calculated. In all the cases, we will not be able to calculate like this. So they have given a ratio, like percentage they have given. For each bank it differs. For each bank they will be giving. The central bank will tell you what is the reserve ratio to be kept. How much percentage of the deposit should be kept back in the bank, so that you can calculate how much credit you can give to others. Alright, what is the next one? Statutory liquidity ratio. What is the next one? Statutory liquidity ratio. That is SLR. What is that? It is the in liquid form you want to keep. Some reserve should be kept in liquid form, means what? Cash form. Most of the things are bonds. Have you known bonds? Like you have shares, okay, then agreements or some home documents. Some people they pledge the documents and they get gold is pledged and got. So some reserves should be kept in terms of money. That is called as statutory liquid ratio, which is called as SLR. Fine. So we have discussed CRR and SLR, and then we are going to discuss about the policy tools to control money supply. That also we are going to see very quickly, because few points of that only are out of related portions. Most of it are in related portions. So we will go quickly into it. Lender of last resort. Why do we call it as lender of last resort? Which do we call as lender of last resort? Central bank is called as a lender of last resort. Why? Because when the banks have a trouble, when they are in need of something, they are ready to lend. Who is ready to lend? The central bank is ready to lend to the banks. Banks only will lend to us. But in case the bank has a financial crisis, then the bank can borrow from the central bank. That is why we are called as a, who is called as? The central bank is called as the lender of last resort. Fine. Next is called as open market operations. That is the buying and selling of bonds issued by the government in the open market is called as open market operations. What is open market operations? Referring to the buying and selling of what? Bonds issued by the government in the open market. Related to this only we have various things. Some bonds are bought by giving a check. Okay. This check increases the total amount of reserves. When you issue a check, you are paying under future date. This will increase the money. Okay, this will increase the total amount of reserves in the economy, and thus increases the money supply. When the reserves increase, what happens? We saw already. Money supply also increases. Then selling of a bond will what? Reduce the money supply. Okay, purchasing of bonds by issuing a check will increase money supply, whereas selling of a bond by RBI, by the central bank of any country, will restrict the flow of money supply. That is, it will decrease the money supply. Fine. Now there are two types of open market operations. One is called as outright and another one is repo. Outright means open market operations are permanent in nature. Means what? Central bank buys these securities, means like there is no promise that these will be sold later. Outright means straight away. It is bought, done. We are not going to sell. We are not going to sell it in a future date. Same way only. When they sell these securities, there is no promise of buying later. Why the selling and buying is going to be a difference? Because we said that when RBI purchases government bonds, that will increase the money supply. When it sells the bonds, it will decrease the money supply. So when the RBI does this without the promise to do it in future, that means there will be no change in the money supply. If it is increases now, increase. If it is decreasing now, decreased. Okay, that is the outright type of open market operation. What is the next type? It is called as the repo. Repo means what? Repurchase agreement. Later on we will, I am buying something. The government, RBI, not me. RBI has bought some securities. Means when they say that future we are going to sell it, then it will be called as a repo. Okay, this agreement of purchase also has specification about date and price of resale of the security. When I purchase the security, when RBI purchases the security, it will say that when it will be sold, the date and time will be mentioned of when it will be sold to other parties. So it is called as a repurchase agreement. In that agreement it will be measured. That is called as repurchase agreement or repo. In reverse, when they sell some securities, in the same agreement it will be mentioned at what date it will be repurchased. That is called as a reverse repurchase agreement or a reverse repo. The rate differs. Again, bank rate. What is bank rate? The RBI can influence money supply by changing the rate at which it gives loan to the commercial banks. We saw that lender of the last resort. No. So even the banks, they have to pay some interest rates. Right. So due to the change in the rate, in the interest rate, the money supply will be decided. They can control it. How they will do it? By changing the bank rate, the loan interest rate that they are charging from commercial banks. Okay, this is how we have discussed about the policy tools to control money supply. Many terms are actually deleted portions: CLR, SLR, repo rate, then reverse repo, bank rate, open market operations. Many terms we have discussed. We have discussed in brief because many of these topics are in deleted portions, but still I wanted you to know what are what. Okay, because money and banking, very interesting topic, and it is not bad to know things. Okay, as I always say, just don't see everything in the exam point of view. Try to think in the point of view of an economist. Get knowledge. Okay, develop your knowledge. When we spoke about demand and supply, this is the last simple topic. It is in 3.1. It is actually in Annexa, but still I would like to discuss it with you as I discuss supply of money, about the various measures of supply of money. Let us discuss about the demand and supply. That is the demand part. Why do people hold money? Why do we actually need money? Is what we are going to discuss. There are two motives for holding money, for the need of money. Need of money only, we say demand of money. Why do we need it? Because of two motives. One is called as transaction motive, another one is called as a speculation motive. Now transaction motive means for day-to-day business transactions we need money. For doing the day-to-day transactions when we need money, then it is called as a transaction motive. Okay, when we talk about speculative motive, in future when you want to buy something, when you want to hold it as a wealth, as an asset, that time you need money. I want to buy bonds, okay, or I want to buy a building. Okay, all these are in promise of future terms. We'll do this insurance, okay, or we'll do fixed deposit. We play a little bit gold saving plans. Gold saving plans you have, like where you pay 200 rupees this month, 200 rupees next month. Can you immediately materialize it? Can you immediately enjoy the benefit? No. After 10 months, 11 months, they will be giving you some gold or some other benefits will be there. That is called as a speculative motive. So you need cash for two motives. One is called as a transaction motive, another one is called as the speculative motive. Alright children, so these are the various things that we have discussed about the demand and supply of money. There is one more small Annexa for you, that is 3.2, demonetization. It is very simple, already we have discussed in business studies also. So I hope that I don't have to recall it again once more for you. What are the various things that we have discussed in chapter 3 children in money and banking? We spoke about money, definition of money, functions of money. Okay, why money came into existence? Because of the failure of barter system. And why did it fail? Because of the various demerits that we have faced with the barter system. We discussed what is meant by demand of money. In demand of money only we have transaction motive and speculative motive. Then in supply of money we discussed about the central bank, commercial banks, and today we have discussed about the various measures of money supply, M1, M2, M3, M4. M1 and M2 are called as narrower concept or narrow money. M3 and M4 are called as broader concepts or broad money. Okay, these are the various points that we have discussed, and we have discussed brief about some deleted portions also about the credit. How money is created by banking system we have discussed, and later on we have discussed about the policy tools to control money supply. Okay, this is entirely about the money creation by banking system. That is when the bank lends something to people, that is also considered to be a deposit. So money deposit, their reserves will increase. Okay, which is called the lender of last resort. The central bank of any country, the RBI for us, is called as the lender of last resort. Why is it called the lender of last resort? Because it lends to banks. Even when banks are in a critical situation, it lends to banks. That is why it is called as the lender of last resort. Clear, children? With this chapter number 3 is over. No problems were there in this chapter, only theory part. So I want you to go through this very carefully. All the deleted portions, undeleted portions, everything, just have a gist of it. And I'm very happy that few of you are reaching me out when you are having doubts. So I am extending my warm support to all of you children. So whenever you have a doubt, just feel free to note it down and call me. Okay, you can reach me out to get your doubts clarified. Please don't aggregate it and don't confuse yourself a lot. When you have just twice or thrice, you just try to work it out on your own. If not, then you reach me out. Alright children, I hope you're working out the problems of chapter number 2. I want to see them in your classwork book. Okay, I want all the problems of chapter number 2 to be worked out in your classwork. Worksheets also should be in your classwork. Alright children, so thank you and may all